Welcome to the Burning Bench. I'm Willie, and today I am going to teach you how to repair tips and prongs. Not to be confused with moose and squirrel. Ooh, moose and squirrel. Ooh, Rocky Bullwinkle, Natasha. Oh, that brings back some memories. I'm dating myself now. Okay, we're going to move right on to the heart of the message. And I'm going to put up some video I shot earlier. And you can see from the top of this ring that there's two prongs missing, yet there's a couple prongs that you can see going over the stone. But if you look at it from the side view, you can see there's one good prong here that I'm pointing to, and it's built up. Whereas if you look at the prongs on the center stone, you can see where one's broken off and the other ones are completely flat. Now what happens, and the reason that prong broke off, is because it got so thin that it grabbed on something, whether it be a sweater, or it could even be hair. Anyway, it got so thin that something got underneath it, pulled it, and broke it off. So we're going to repair that today. Now the ring I'm going to be working on is different than this ring, but hopefully this one will be a little bit easier to see. It's a little bit bigger diamond, and we're going to be repairing one prong and 3 tips. First thing I do is I grab my barrette file, and I'm going to level the broken tip off. And what I like to do is I like to make it the same angle as the stone. So here's our broken tip, and I'm filing it the same level as the stone. Okay, and we will put that in our third hand, and we'll be getting back to that in just a second. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take a piece of 18 gauge gold wire, and I'm going to take the wire and I'm going to put an angle on it as well. So I have an angle on this now, you can see. And I'm going to take some tweezers. This is where I'm going to use 2 tweezers because I want my angle to be against the angle that I cut on the prong. So I need it to stay straight and need it to know where it is. So the best way to do that is I use 2 tweezers. So now I've got my angle set. So we're gonna check our torch. Make sure that we got a good flame. And we do. So I've got my ring set in here now. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut us a little solder. One thing that I think I've neglected to talk about is temperature, melting temperature of the solder. For tips, for sizings, just about everything I use hard solders on. And the reason you want to use a hard solder is because it has a higher tensile strength because it melts at a higher temperature. And anytime you can melt closer to the melting temperature of the gold, you're going to get a lot better bond. Okay, so now I am going to cut my solder. As you can see, I have my ring in my third hand, and I've cut solder. It's on the board. My tweezers with my wire are set and ready to use. I'm going to come over here. I'm getting a piece of solder now. Now I'm going to first take and do the prong first. And you can see that I'm heating the prong from the back side. What I want to do is I want to take and melt my solder on the prong first. And I have my wire up, kind of preheating, making sure that the angle I cut is facing down. Okay, then I always check it, make sure that it's got a good solder on it. Then I come in and clip it. So, that's our prong. Pretty cool, huh? Now I want to re-tip the other tips. So, pick up a piece of solder. Now, when I do a tip, I heat from the end of the tip towards the prong, so I can get that solder to flow right over that tip. Just taking a little time to melt. Okay, there it goes. Okay, that's good. Now let's get another piece of solder here. And we're going to do this prong. That melts a little bit quicker because my piece is hot. And we want to make sure that we don't have any contamination on that tip. Now let's pick this up, get a pair of tweezers, and I want to turn this around so I can melt the last tip. Get me some solder. And again, now my piece is cooled off a little bit, so it's going to take a second for my solder to melt. We don't, we want it to work fairly quickly, but at the same time, we don't want our flame so hot that the solder runs down the side of the prongs. Okay. Now what I like to do is I'll go and kind of heat things from the back, make sure that they get ran down the hole. But there again, be careful. And then also I burn off any contamination that might be in the tip so you don't have any pit marks in your tip. Okay, that looks good. And you can see already how we've got our tips are built up. Next step is I'm going to put it on my solder pad and let it cool. All right, our rings has cooled down now. I went and readjusted the camera so you can see this a little bit better as far as what I'm doing. I'm going to take my Brett file now and I'm going to trim these up and get them ready for polish. The prong that we did is going to have the most cleanup, and I'm going to take and file the front of it a little bit. And then I want to trim these prongs to where they match with the original prong, and I'm going to do that all the way around for the ones we built. Trim those out. Now trim the back of them. So we want all these prongs to look the same after we're done. And as we're filing, we want to look and make sure that there's no pit marks. So that's it. Tips and prongs are done. Next step, putting it in the pickle, let it soak for a little bit, steam it, polish it, wrap it up, and send it out. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email me at logan1studio@aol.com. Next episode, channel repair. Channel repair is a little bit more difficult, and you don't run across it as much as you do tip and prong repair. Till then, I'm Willie. Thanks for tuning in.